Are you a podcaster? Maybe you've got that big idea and you're looking for a network to join. The multi-award-winning Ozcast Network can get your content to eyes and ears all over the world. Join now for the first month free, and you could be featuring this sound at the beginning of your podcast. Ozcast. Simply head to ozcastnetwork.com for details.
Negative Camber the Motorsport Show is proudly supported by Pro Karts Paraka, Red Mill Bakery, Moviesoft Trailer Hire, Enphase Microinverters, Radio Italia Uno, QuickBooks, and TD Racing.
Welcome back to Negative Camber the Motorsport Show, proudly supporting Scuderia Ferrari Club Adelaide. And got Harry here on the left of my screen. Hello, mate.
What's going on?
This is the first time I've seen you probably since before the state titles, I reckon.
We saw each other after the state title. Didn't we do a show or something? That same night? The next week?
Yeah, something like that. Yeah. But with us is a regular of the show. Well, at least he was for a while, and then work and racing got in the way, and we haven't seen him much. It's Todd Hazelwood. Welcome back, mate.
Thanks, crew. No, great to catch up again and have a chat with my two favourite South Australians. So, look forward to diving into some details and catching up on the latest gossip.
Now I have to call BS on that one straight away because your mum and dad are still here, so we can't be your two favourite South Australians.
Second and third, then third and fourth.
Mate, I made top four. I'm happy with that. I'm all good. Yeah. I'm all good, mate. A lot's happened since we last spoke. I reckon it was probably March, April, something like that when we last caught up. And it was actually really early in the season, and a lot of optimism with MSR and everything else. But how would you describe what's happened between, say, March this year up to this point?
Look, 2022 has been a pretty up and down year. We certainly started the year with a lot of ups, and the back half of this season, without hiding away from the truth, it's been really tough. But that's the beauty of motorsport, and I think the best thing is that out of everything that's gone through, there's still great relationship there between Matt and I, and the whole team there at MSR has still been great to work with in the back half of this year, and still really enjoyed my time. But obviously a new opportunity for me now, moving on to the team at Blanchard Racing Team with the Cool Drive number 3 Mustang, and really looking forward to what 2023 holds. Obviously being a completely new era for the sport and introduction to Gen 3. There's a lot happening, and there's a great buzz around Supercars. So the future's bright.
Yeah, I've got to say, BRT was out of the blue. I didn't expect it, and it was more out of a surprise because I'd actually initially thought that you'd signed for a couple of years with MSR. So can you take us through the process as to how the opportunity came about, and what was it, or what were the factors that got you there?
Look, without diving into too many details and getting too juicy on the gossip, but I guess there's always things happening behind closed doors, and there's always phone calls happening. Doesn't matter if teams or drivers are signed or not. There's always people asking questions, and it's amazing how quick rumours get out as well. And it was a phone call, and that phone call progressed into a very serious conversation from there, I guess. But just great opportunity, and I had to jump at it once I understood the details of it all, and went from there.
Can we expect any sort of fancy delivering antics after the final race of the year from MSR to Blanchard? Are we going to see you wheeled down the pit lane on a trolley rack, or?
If there's any team that probably would do it, would be the boys at MSR. I reckon they're a great bunch of lads and have a lot of fun. So I'm sort of dreading that moment. We had one of our engineers leave us early this year at Darwin, and he got thrown in the water after dinner. So and he's dressed up in a Luigi suit as well, just to paint a picture as well. So we'll see what happens. I might be in a bit of trouble come Sunday afternoon.
Have they been able to sort of tie up who your engineer is going to be, and because I'm imagining you're still a single car team next year?
Yeah, correct. Yeah, single car team. So it'll be myself flying the flag for the BRT program in the main series, but the BRT team will also be expanding into Super 2 next year. So it'll actually be quite a significant step for the team to obviously expand from 1 to 2 cars in the workplace. Obviously, with that also comes extra personnel and more mechanics and engineers. So the team's in a really good place. But for me, I'll be locked in working with Mirko De Rossa. I've had great things and super excited to team up with him and get our heads together. And ultimately, we both are hungry for success. So between us, we're going to be hungry to be pushing towards the front next year and getting that cool drop Mustang on the podium.
Have you had a chance to have a close look at the Gen 3 cars, either the Mustang or the Camaro, and what are your impressions of them so far?
The cars are really impressive, to be fair. Obviously, the luxury of supercars having quite a few years now to be able to hone in on all the small details and weed out all the bugs that are going to be potentially wrong with the car. We can really ensure that we've got a well-built race car when we put the cars on track for the first time in 2023 at Newcastle. I was lucky enough to get my first taste behind the wheel around the Bend Motorsport Park in the Camaro at the time, and they're a well-built thing. The interesting thing for me was the torque, how the torque delivery comes on. It definitely excites the rear tire a little bit more, not crazy amounts more, but just a little bit more to, I think, really make the driver be more conscious of it. At the moment, the cars are so well designed and built and engineered that it's almost faultless on the exit phase now with the way the cars are. So having that little bit more slip is going to create obviously more excitement, more mistakes, and ultimately a bit more passing. The cars are very stable. Like I feel like they've got more mechanical grip. There is a reduction in aero, but it's a slightly different footprint as far as width and track for the new Gen 3 cars. So it's still reasonably stable, but hopefully with that reduction of aero will be out, it'll let us follow one another just that little bit closer, and ultimately make the racing more exciting.
Do you think that the handling will be significantly different as well, given that they've got a bit of a lower center of gravity than the current cars? Like, you're going to be able to wheel and hustle them around the corners and around the track a bit harder?
Yeah, I definitely think so. And that was my impression of the car when I first drove it. To be honest, I was pleasantly surprised. Like, I'd heard a couple of drivers talk about it, and I sort of had like this really loose, out of control boat in my mind, thinking, wow, what's this thing going to be like? But yeah, it was really good. And you could still brake the thing really late, throw the thing into the corner quite aggressively and get rewarded for it. So it certainly feels like it's a hustler's car, which is cool. But it's also, when it's in that testing phase, the cars aren't pretty. They're not maximized and set up as well. So no doubt by the time we get our cars after a couple of test days and refined before round one, the cars are going to be quite a bit faster from the first time we put them on track. So it's going to be interesting. I think it's going to, as I said, create a lot of excitement for the fans. And ultimately, if we can potentially see some mixed up results to start the year off, I think that's a great thing, because we've probably only seen no more than 4 drivers share the top step of the podium this season. But yeah, we'll see what happens. Hopefully for us at Cool Drive, it'll be a great opportunity to start clean. Obviously, new team, but also a new car, new direction, new setup philosophy. It's the same for everyone, really. So for me, to have a big change up in a team, it's probably a good time to do it.
Have they sorted out? I know obviously the BRT cars have been sort of Tickford with a Herod engine this year, and previous to that was an all Tickford build. What's the situation for the car next year? Obviously, the like a Team Penske DJR built shell, but what are the internals going to be, and or is it all going to be in house?
I guess that's the unique thing with Gen 3. Everything that we used to do in the sport has changed completely. We now go from only having 2 engine suppliers. So Hera Performance will be doing all the Ford's engines, and vice versa with KRE doing all of the Chevrolet engines. We've never seen anything like that before, and having more control from Supercars. And then from the chassis, obviously, there's a lot more control componentry on the cars. So essentially, it doesn't really matter who builds the car or where they've come from. They're all very similar starting point, which is, I think, it's great. So it really does come down to the teams, once they get their cars, how they prepare them and maximising the smallest of details to find the advantage. So my chassis in particular, it started its life from Pace Innovations. So all the main hoops, the key infrastructure of the chassis was welded together, then painted, and then sent down to Cool Drive's factory in Melbourne to then be assembled and essentially turned into a turnkey race car from there.
Yep, nice. And look, the Herod engines this year certainly proven not to be a slouch in a straight line. In particular with the DJR setup. As the years gone on, they've definitely progressed in terms of their power. So you're in good hands there, mate. That's for sure.
Yeah, exactly. No, the Hera Performance side of the business is quite interesting, and obviously they've got major support from our friends at Ford Motor Company and Ford Performance in America, and there's from what I understand, there's going to be a big presence for Ford in the sport in 2023 with Gen 3, which is, I think a great thing for, it's music to race fans, is knowing that, we're still going to have competitive factory support for teams in pit lane, even on the basis that, essentially Australian manufacturing doesn't exist. So it's great to still have that commitment from Ford to, support us in racing and motorsport and stick to their roots and acknowledging that Supercars is part of their business model to sell new Mustangs, which is, it's quite exciting.
Yeah, and I suppose given it's Ford, we've known for a little while now that your heart beats blue, and I mean, it must be, almost like it's probably the word for it. How can I call it? You're sort of confirming a dream, that you're driving.
Homecoming.
Forward. A homecoming, yeah, probably a good way to put it. You there, Toddy? We lost you.
Yep. No,
yeah.
No, definitely. For me, as Leigh would know, he's seen all my Ford posters when I was growing up as a kid.
Posters, flags, model cars.
Yeah, I was a one-eyed Ford supporter, but I think I've grown past the, obviously the whole strictness to one brand, but obviously, there's still that little part of me that puts a little smile on my face to know that I'll be driving a blue Ford Mustang next year. It's obviously a fantastic looking car that looks really good. So it's very special.
What do you think? Now that Holden have actually properly gone, considering it was the John Farnham farewell tour of 3 years, I think it was. Yeah. What do you think? Do you actually think the crowd numbers will remain as is, or will lose some of that? I mean, you'll lose the rivalry of that whole Holden versus Ford thing, but it'd be very interesting, in my opinion, to see what the shift is going to be like to. Obviously, Ford will be Ford, but it will be what's going to happen with that Team Red GMH element. Is it still going to be there, or what's that going to look like?
Well, I think I've already seen what it looks like, to be fair. Obviously, we've arguably haven't had any input from Holden for the last 2 years now in our sport. And obviously, we're still running a Holden, but I know there's some people out there that say, you could arguably say it's not a real Commodore anyway, because the last real Australian Holden Commodore was the VF. But saying that, our viewership, our fan base has probably never been stronger, to be fair. So, I think it's a really tough time for the sport, because obviously it is the DNA of Supercars was always Ford versus Holden, Australian manufacturer against Australian manufacturer. The times have changed, and I think it took a lot of people to realise that Holden actually is gone. Like, it doesn't exist. It's done. So that's a hard thing to accept after decades of history and racing and everything that goes with that. But I think that GM involvement, obviously there's still ties with GM and Holden, so there's still that element of that red blood, if you call it. So there's still going to be the Ford versus Blue rivalry, which is great. That's, for me personally, that's what I grew up and fell in love with the sport, because that's what it was about. I think, but also what we've seen too is a big shift in the way the sport is obviously broadcasted, and the way race fans have access to the drivers now. And I think there's been a big shift in the supporters of, rather than supporting, say, Camaro versus Mustang, it's, I want to support Todd Hazelwood, or I want to support Chaz Moster, whoever it may be. We're starting to see more of an alliance that way. And I think a lot of that just comes down to the accessibility to the individual these days. Like when I was growing up as a kid, the only time you read about racing or your hero driver was in Auto Action or the little snippet in the news that afternoon. So I think the sport's in a good place, and there'll still be a few people that might be a bit upset, but you can't please everyone either, can you? You do have to move on eventually. So
I feel like we're going to see a massive shift in the amount of Holden badges being replaced with Chevrolet badges, though. That's just something that's going to happen.
Yeah, exactly.
Got to get that extra 50 horsepower.
Exactly.
They've only just delayed what they were doing 3 or 4 years ago with the VE. I mean, how many VE Commodores did you see, mate, with the badges ripped off and they'd put Chevy ones on there?
Exactly.
Although it is interesting to note how, over the last sort of 2 or 3 years, you'd say that the crowd numbers aren't what for V8 Supercar events aren't like what they were, say, at peak sort of V8 Supercar era, which was probably, early to mid 2000s. And obviously COVID's played a part in that. But then I guess when you look at the crowd numbers that they had, or the lack thereof, for the Bathurst International over the weekend, even though it was chock-a-block full of draw card, support categories and racing, that the sport's actually not as bad as what, people make it out to be in particular. I actually thought it was really disappointing to see, the lack of numbers that they had at the track on the weekend.
Yeah, look, I think, the hard thing with motorsport at the moment, there's so much good racing on. Every second week there's events here, there's events there, and I think cost of living is obviously a big thing at the moment, and we can't afford to go to every race meeting. So I think race fans pick and choose the marquee events that they want to go to, and they come out and as you said, they still come out and support us. There's media outlets out there that try and tarnish the brand of Supercars and make accusations that sports in decline or people aren't supporting it. But you actually look at the facts, and particularly like the last 3 events for us, it really feels like Supercars is actually starting to gain momentum and come back to life. Like obviously we went to Supercar and we had a sellout crowd, and even with it being smash with rain at Bathurst, we had 200,000 people there, and we had the same again at Gold Coast, another 200,000 people there. And Gold Coast for me really felt like, Supercars is back. Obviously that was the one missing, those marquee street circuit events where that sort of screams Supercar events to, for us in our industry. So now to go to Adelaide as the finale, we're going to finish the last 4 race meetings with all attendances over 200,000, which is epic. So, and as you mentioned, considering what we went through in the last 2 years, it's good to see the life and energy getting pushed back into the events, because obviously the racing's one part, but it is a show. We're a moving circus, I guess. So it's good to see.
Yeah, and speaking of marquee events, the 500, the jewel in the crown, outside of Bathurst, is back. We had our conversations over the last couple of years, and I would never have ever pictured it to be actually come to life and to be back where it belongs. I can't wait. And, but I hope that we don't get weather like what we did on the weekend here on Saturday, and we have all this hype and the event's completely washed out. But
it might make it interesting. A little bit of rain always makes a good day.
Exactly right.
Could you imagine going through turn 8 with all the rivers of water running across the track?
And, separate the boys from the men, wouldn't it?
Yeah, 100%. Absolutely. But I think for listeners at home, what are the training aspects and what are the physical aspects that you have to try and prepare yourself for the 500, given how physically taxing it is, and what is traditionally meant to be some of the hottest parts of the year now that the race is going to be at the end of the season?
Yeah, look, the 500 Ks of racing over the Saturday and Sunday is brutal. I think the biggest thing at the street circuits, and is probably a hard thing to imagine, but to paint a quick picture, the track doesn't breathe. The whole circuit is surrounded by concrete barriers, and all the hot air that comes off the car, all the fumes, all the everything off the brakes and the tires. You're racing in and around this hot tunnel of dirty hot air, and obviously the ambient temperature, as you mentioned, is hot as well. So, normally on a normal day behind the wheel, you sort of go 30 degrees above ambient temperature inside the race car, and then you got to do that for 2 hours or over a 2 hour period. It's a brutal environment, and a very expensive weight loss program. You're losing roughly 3 kilos worth of fluid in one race, and then obviously you got to try and rehydrate, re-energize, and get your body back in shape to do the front set up and do it again on Sunday. And interestingly, we haven't been doing a lot of longer races until just recently. Obviously, we come off Bathurst and Gold Coast, and then you go to Adelaide. So we are, as drivers, somewhat conditioned, which helps. Certainly, when it used to be the other way around, you go to Adelaide as the first round and 250k race straight up. It didn't matter how hard you trained or what you did in the gym or whatever you tried to do to try and replicate the heat, it would just smash you on that first day on race day. It's brutal, but that's what makes it so challenging and so rewarding when you get a good result there, because just finishing the race competitively is a great result considering the challenge behind the wheel.
So with this show and this interview will air after the race, but let's put our crystal ball in. Where's Todd going to finish in the races on Saturday and Sunday?
Look, to be honest, I'd be happy with 2 top 10s over the weekend. That would be a great way to finish off our year. As I said, we've had a pretty tough end to this year, and not much has gone to plan, but that's just motorsport, and we're still going to be giving it our all to redeem our year and put a show on for the home crowd. That'd be really nice.
Well, given your recent history with Triple Eight chassis Commodores with MSR, mate, I'd be disappointed if I didn't see you crack top 10 shootouts and get yourself sort of mid top 10 in terms of your qualifying and that sort of thing.
Look, I certainly hope so too. Yeah, it was cool to get my first shootout back in 2019 around there. Having that track to yourself for one lap in front of a home crowd is pretty special.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm assuming that obviously things are on good terms with you and MSR. I mean, if there was a defining memory or some really good memories that you'd have racing with that team, and you've raced with them for a significant amount of time, what would be the things that stand out to you the most, looking back?
Just being part of the Stone family for one. I've learnt so much off Matt in particular. He's given me some great opportunities in the sport, and I'll be forever thankful for that. Obviously we've done a lot together in Super 2 and winning the championship, stepping up as rookies together in getting my first shot in the main series as a wild card, and then translating that into a full-time assault the following year. Lots of great memories. Yeah, very special. And lots of hard work. I think that's one thing that sticks out. Proud of the work that we've done together to get where we are today.
Now on to another topic, and it's only recently happened overnight. We'll cover Formula One initially, and the real Max Verstappen has finally made his comeback. The idiot.
I believe that the real Lewis returned.
Oh, please don't get me started, mate. Please, the FIA showed what they actually really thought of that. Max being Max.
They felt They would give Max a penalty because they knew it was all over and done with. So they wanted to be seen doing something to all of the Lewis supporters. Otherwise, they would have been screaming, "Rigged again! Rigged! How did Max not get a penalty for Lewis shutting the door on him?"
He's a dead set peanut, and I'm talking about Max. All right, it was great that he finally showed up. Hey,
lucky you guys are in a separate room right now.
no, that's all right. That's
I'd say there's nothing I wouldn't say now that I wouldn't say to his face, Todd.
No, we'd give each other a hug and then just laugh, but often, call each other idiots as well. It's all good. But let me ask you this question. So you've won a championship, and the Constructors' Championship's wrapped up, and let's just say it's you and Jack, and you're racing, and Jack's in contention to do 1-2 in the title. Would you have moved over and given Jack a bit of a leg up if that was the agreement that you had in place during or before the race?
I would safely say I think my personality is very different to Max Verstappen. Yeah, look, hey, envious of the success that he's got, and I'm not taking anything away, but yeah, certainly raise the eyebrows. It doesn't matter if I totally understand one argument of one side of the argument being, he's a racer and he wants to race every race that he does very hard. But he's also employed to do a job, and his job is to do the best job for his team, and he didn't do that yesterday. So, yeah, I would say poor form by him. But that's just my opinion. But
I agree. I definitely agree. He was let through for the sole purpose of going after the whole points of Alonso, and if he couldn't do it, then he should have been given giving the place back to Perez. I'm not a Max Verstappen fanboy. I'm just I don't really like him at all. He's not a very good human, but in the battles in particular that we speak of, I would prefer his opinion than the other person's.
Yeah.
Dear oh dear. Hey, actually, tell you what, we haven't actually had a chance to talk about this, Harry. What about the NASCAR a couple of weeks ago with Chastain and that move around the top of the banking? Have you guys? That was unreal.
That was so good.
So good. Yeah.
Maybe you could give that a shot at turn 8 at Adelaide 500, Todd.
Last lap hero.
Yeah.
I got another 6 corners left and right to go.
Yeah.
Oh, unbelievable. But put yourself in the shoes of the drivers to even have the audacity to think of that at that point in the race. After being behind the wheel for 3 hours maybe.
Yeah.
To even actually have the audacity to pull that off. It's incredible.
It's definitely a planned thought for sure. He would have
practicing that one on iRacing.
Yeah, he would have done the track walk and gone, I reckon I could make this work for sure.
Yeah.
It's amazing what goes through a driver's head when you get to that stage of a race. You get pretty relaxed. You get into a groove, and you just start thinking about things of what could I do to turn this race on its head. He clearly did that.
And the outcome as well, transferred into the final 4 because he made the 2 passes plus some and ended up beating the guy that he needed to beat to transfer into the top 4.
Yeah, it was perfect.
Perfect. But there aren't too many tracks where that'll work again. Martinsville is definitely one of those ones where the corner radius is so tight and you have to slow down so much that it definitely is probably the only track that'll work. And I know Kyle Larson tried it a year and a half ago or 2 years ago at another track that's slipping my mind, and it didn't quite come off in the same fashion.
Yeah, no, exactly.
I think what got me was just the speed differential. When you saw the spectator videos and stuff like that, just how much faster he was compared to everyone else. It was absolutely fascinating. It was almost like he was just in a different league.
Yeah, his final lap was 2.5 seconds faster than the next fastest lap on the final lap of the race.
Yeah.
Did he have the track record as well, I think?
Yeah, it was the track record, yeah. I think the only thing that had gone around there faster was a super late model, high grip, low center of gravity, high downforce race car had gone around there a 10th of a second faster than he did that in.
Yep, that's epic.
Yeah, what it did do though was it brought that. I don't think I've seen NASCAR in terms of general media in Australia anyway. Just went off. I don't think there was a website that or news site, sports site, whatever you want to call it, that did not have footage of that last 30 seconds. It was incredible.
Yeah. It's quite cool.
They went from having one of the most audacious accidents 2 weeks before that with the intentional wrecking of Kyle Larson to having one of the most amazing passing manoeuvres ever seen.
What about you, Todd? Have you ever had any aspirations of racing overseas, be it, say, GT or NASCAR or even open wheelers? Did that ever cross your mind at any stage?
Yeah. Oh, look, would love to. For me, growing up as a kid, it was just wanted to be a race car driver. I didn't care where it was or what it looked like or what the brand was or how fast or slow it went. I just wanted to have my backside in behind the wheel. Whether that was overseas or Europe or America, like obviously the European dream for me was, it was a pretty quick reality of, that would be a very much a long shot. I would never say never. Don't get me wrong. I won't bow down to the challenge, but it was just a position that we're in at the time to be able to make that work just wasn't realistic. So hence why I stayed in Australia. But I do remember looking at some options at particularly in the American route, because it's actually very well supported in the junior categories. With I'm trying to think what they
Indy
have.
Lights and Pro Mazda and Skip Barber.
Correct. Yeah. Like they have a really good scholarship program in place, and obviously, motorsport in America is just off the scale cool. There's great opportunities over there, and that was, I guess, the second plan I had in place if the supercar dream wasn't to come to life. But very fortunate to obviously now still be in the supercar scene and living out my childhood dream of being on the grid. So I won't say no to an opportunity later down the track. Like for instance, I'd love to do like the Macau Grand Prix or do something like that, which is left of field, a little bit different, but a cool challenge, and tick some races off the bucket list.
Still young, plenty of time.
I hope so. The grey hairs are coming through now, Leigh. So
don't you talk to me about grey hairs.
Don't either of you talk to me about grey hairs, all right?
Yeah, wait till you see me at the 500. You'll think I'm 55 years old.
Mate, this is a family show and it's G-rated. But the words that are coming to my mouth right now start with a G and end with an F. Don't even go there when it comes to grey hairs. Yep. Actually, you know what? I reckon I could see TH racing in the World Cup TCR Challenge next year. I could see TH rocking a Honda or a nice Alfa Giulietta. What do you reckon?
Yeah, I don't know. I'm sort of torn with TCR. I don't know. It doesn't scream out to me as something I would like to do.
He's not a front wheel drive person.
Clearly. No, I'm clearly a bogan at heart and still love my V8 and rear wheel drive supercar. But hey, I won't say no. I'm not saying that at all. But we have like one category I reckon like that's quite cool is like S5000. So I'd love to have a crack at that. To be fair.
Yeah.
Any of our friends at Team BRM are having a listen, then I'm sure you've still got Todd's phone number.
Yes, exactly. Give me a call. I'll happily have that.
Tell us a little bit about this XC wagon that you've picked up. And we saw it pop up on YouTube the other day when you were doing some promo work with Motul. What's the story behind that?
It's just a bit of labour of love. I've always loved my old cars, and as you mentioned earlier, I've always been a bit of a Ford man at heart. But I've always wanted to have an old cool car just as a bit of a fun cruiser to enjoy on a sunny day, and sort of that's my way of switching off is being at one with an old car, because you drive something old and slow like that, you're at one with the equipment. You feel every gear change, you feel every bump, you can hear all the different noises, and I really enjoy it in a weird way, I guess. But I reckon that like my way of spending a Sunday is winding down the windows and just going through the gears, and it's good fun. But the car itself is I picked it up from a deceased estate about roughly 18 months ago, and could sort of see certainly wasn't perfect, but I could see the potential, knowing if I could spend a bit of time and bringing it back to life, then it would be a respectable car that I knew wouldn't take too much work to get at least on the road to enjoy at worst. So bit of a project, but nothing too far-fetched where I wasn't having to do a full body respray or cut the thing in half to get rid of the rust. It was a very sound, dry car, which was, one of the main reasons I brought it, to be fair. So, it's a cool old thing. It's a massive old wagon, and just good fun.
Throw the go-karts in the back and off you go.
Exactly. That's exactly right.
Have you still got was it a Zephyr that you were rebuilding as well?
Yeah. The Zephyr has been a very long-term project. It's actually in parts completely stripped in Melbourne at the moment. So I've got that in my sister's garage down there still. So it's hurt me a lot that I haven't been able to do anything on it this year, but got some grand plans for that coming up soon. So watch this space.
That's nice.
Are you going to have to relocate to Victoria with BRT, or are you going to still stay up in Queensland?
Just working through that at the moment, actually. So not sure what I'll be doing just yet, but it's the joys of being a racing car driver. You essentially just live out the suitcase. So wherever I end up, it won't take me too long to go from A to B.
Yeah. With the Ford, I mean, what work did you have to do to it? Was more just sort of bringing the engine to life, or were there some stuff that you did have to repair? Because it's quite rare to get a column shift wagon, in particular XC as well.
Yeah, no, exactly. Like it's the running gear was all in pretty good condition, to be fair. But it hadn't ran for 20 odd years. So simple things, sitting in the same spot for a long period of time, so the wheel bearings are shot, and going over everything underneath the car to make sure that it was going to be reliable. And this is where I do my little plug for Modal, and we essentially use their whole catalogue to bring the car back to life, which was great. Having a partnership like that gave me the ability to made it effortless to bring it back to life. And it's been great. I really enjoy getting hands on with the equipment and working on cars. And obviously when you're in the top league of supercars, they don't let the drivers work on the cars these days. So for me, it's a little bit of enjoyment being able to still get my hands dirty and play with something in my spare time. And it didn't actually take too long to get it running, to be fair. It was a pretty sweet moment getting it to fire up for the first time, because I'd purchased the car, sort of been able to see that it was original. It was the original matching engine and this, that, and the other, and but never heard it ran before. I didn't get to drive it or anything. So when we finally got it back to life and got some brakes and everything else, it was a pretty sweet moment.
Oh, it's good. Are you gonna bring it over to Adelaide at some point and get your dad's XC out and do some joy riding together?
Yeah, no, that would be cool. So one day I might have to do a bit of a road trip down to Adelaide and make a bit of a trip out of it. That'd be very cool.
Go for a drive with your third favourite Adelaidean.
Yeah, that's it.
Who, me?
No,
you didn't say
his dad.
Oh. Did he do the what's the race that they do over the Northern Territory that your dad did a couple of years ago?
Yeah, the Think Desert Race. Yes.
Yeah. Did he do that this year?
No, he's retired now. He did it once and then fell off the second year, and he realised that it hurts when you fall off now. So he's happy. He ticked it off the bucket list. He rides around in a adventure bike now. So it's cool. It's cool to see Dad enjoying himself again. Obviously, being a big part of my career, very selfish on my behalf, where all the money and every piece of equipment all went into going racing. So for him to now actually have a bike and go out and enjoy himself is great.
Yeah. Now, because I was running late due to my own incompetence prior to the start of this interview, did our feathered friend sort of give you wax lyrical about his greatness that he displayed at the Ultimate Club Driver Karting Australia event a couple of weeks ago?
Yeah, that was awesome. I saw that on Facebook and social media, so it was great to see. Good to see Leigh still got it.
Did it ever leave him? That's the question.
No, it,
It's just like riding a bike.
that's it.
I've got to say though, with all due respect, though, mate, and I'm going to lay some flowers at your door. You're not dead, but I'm still going to tell you anyway. The thing that I find really fascinating is the fact that you've had a custom-made kart that's been built from scratch, locally produced here in SA, and it's gone out and absolutely trumped all of the established brands, in particular in the four-stroke class, like to a point where you're a half a second to lap quicker at a track that's relatively foreign to you consistently throughout the whole meet. I mean, to be blunt, and I'm going to swear here on the interview, you were shithoused in qualifying, mate. That was a poor effort getting second, considering that you're half a second lap faster than everyone else. I've got to be critical of you at some point.
Got to give him a sniff, mate. Got to give him a sniff.
That's about all they sniffed. Everything else was all fumes because they couldn't see you.
Mind games. He started it from qualifying. Yeah.
Harry loves his mind games. We know that. But no, mate, kudos to you, honestly, because, I've obviously been in sort of seeing the kart from a concept, really. And to smoke them the way that you did, and let's face it, you did, is a massive result. How much of it was driver, how much of it was kart. But, I mean, to be half a second lap quicker than everything else says a lot about the whole combination.
Yeah, you've got to have both, really. There's a little bit driver and a lot to do with the kart, but just because it's homemade and we built it here ourselves in Adelaide, it doesn't mean that it's been made, not made with love and not made with the care and I guess the nous of people knowing where to put every bend and how to weld it all together. So John and Nick know what they're doing, and as Todd will attest, they've done plenty for me, and now it's my time to give back to them and put their brand on the stage and just make sure that when I jump in the go-kart, I do a good job. And yeah, I don't know, qualifying, we didn't get the toe, and that whole weekend was about the toe. And you can see that every time that I did have my driving mind on and got in the toe properly, I was all over the guys in lights. So like I said, give them a sniff, and then just drove smart for the rest of the weekend, and we got a win. So we were happy because we started the Saturday pre-final on the front on pole position, outsmarted all of the lights and started on pole, and then we took the outright win on Sunday morning in the final heat, and then we were thereabouts in the final as well. So yeah, look, thanks, I appreciate the kind words, and I've got a lot of good people in my corner, and like I said, once you've ridden the bike, you rarely fall off of it. So found it quite comfortable driving around there in the four-stroke. We didn't do any changes to the go-kart at all weekend. We rolled it out of the van and just played with tyre pressures and spent most of our time working on the KO3 kart.
Well, UTH, I know that when we spoke off air earlier in the week that you hadn't done too much racing, but you're still pedaling around in the CRG? Yeah,
still running the CRG and put the PRD 125 on there. So I love my karting, always have and always will. I don't think that'll ever leave me. Just unfortunately, just with the calendar this year and lots of commitments in between events, just haven't had the spare weekends to be able to do too many race meetings. Still done lots of time in the kart, but just I think I've only done no more than 4 race meetings this year, which is probably, saying that out loud now, is still probably not a bad effort.
That's a good effort.
how many weekends we are away normally. So not all bad. Certainly not complaining, but still love it. And I'm sort of hoping next year, depending where I'm, either I'm based in Melbourne or up here in Queensland, where I'm currently at the moment, if try and do some more racing and go to some bigger events, just to try and do some more competitive racing, because there's no better ingredient for bettering yourself and putting yourself up with young guys that are trying to prove themselves in karting, because it's the most intense form of racing that you can get, I still believe. So lots of fun.
Well, we know where a couple of karts are. If you ever find yourself in Adelaide and wanting to do an event, I'm sure we can sort something out. It's even got the number 35 on it, ready for you to go.
Perfect.
I was aware of a number 55 DR in the trailer there. I've got a number 27 OTK 401 just sitting there that hasn't done anything since February. So they're all 4-strokes though, Toddy. So it might be a little bit below your league. We'll have to wait and see.
No, that's right. It's still a lot of fun.
I wouldn't mind seeing Harry versus Hazelwood showdown. Maybe throw a bit of biscuits in there too, just for a bit of fun and laughs. That would be interesting.
That would be cool.
We might have something in the works for young Toddy. We were talking about off air before you joined us with your lateness, but we might save that. And by the time this podcast is released, there might be more news on it.
I've got a feeling I know where you're going with that, but I'll let you do the announcements. I won't take your breath away on that too. So yeah, but Toddy, it's been an absolute pleasure, mate. It's good to always catch up. An hour goes very, very quickly, and I think we've just about covered close to an hour's worth of chat. But is there any thanks or plugs that you want to give before we wind up?
Oh, look, I just want to say thanks to you guys, and your support on the podcast here has been unreal all year. You guys are always saying nice things about me, and it's just always great to have an open and honest chat with you guys and talk car racing, which is the main passion. While we're all here tonight having a chat, is because we all share the same love of what we do. So yeah, no, it's always good to catch up, and look forward to seeing you both in Adelaide shortly, coming up soon.
Yes, mate. I've got my 4-day pit pass and grandstand pass, so I will be whoring myself down that pit lane, and I will endeavour to make myself very available to MSR and T Hazelwood. Don't you worry about that. Very good. Sounds great.
And hand him a set of spanners and put him to work.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, we'll have you cleaning some tyres with our tyre guy. How about that?
Mate, give me the rag and a bit of Bowden Zone or whatever you use to clean down the car, and I'm all there. I'll even fill your drink bottles, mate. I don't care.
Love it.
I'll hold your umbrella too, if you like.
Yeah, that's it.
I'll show off my pins like I did in the Southern Go-Kart Club broadcast, if you saw that.
Exactly.
God, I'd scared to dead. But yeah. Anyway, buddy, we'll catch up with you for the 500 at the 500. All the best of luck for the remaining couple of races, and also for your stint at BRT next year. We'll certainly try and catch up between now and the start of the season anyway.
Yeah, perfect. No worries, guys. Appreciate it.
All right.
Thanks, Todd. Talk to you soon.
Yeah, mate.
Will do. Cheers.
Are you a podcaster? Maybe you've got that big idea and you're looking for a network to join. The multi-award-winning Ozcast Network can get your content to eyes and ears all over the world. Join now for the first month free, and you could be featuring this sound at the beginning of your podcast.
Ozcast.
Simply head to ozcastnetwork.com for details.